questions to ask throughout a campaign with the confidence rising. I told WDF don't switch, good times are coming on even deep diving. Fan cams, reactions, watch along, still the pride of London thriving. The Eagles of South, they flying. Keep your eyes on us, we ain't hiding.
Yes guys, welcome back to episode 1 of Transfer Weekly. This is the show where I tell you all about the transfer rumours and some players which may and may not sign for Crystal Palace in this summer window. Today's episode is going to be a little bit different. It is the first one back and we still don't have a manager. So this episode is purely going to be on managers and we'll be back to players again next week. Alright, it's going to be a bit of a long one. I hope you guys enjoy. Remember always to like, share, subscribe, and yeah, let's get into it. And the first manager I'm going to talk about today is Adi Hutter. A month ago, there was so much talk about Crystal Palace have signed Adi Hutter and he will be the new Crystal Palace manager. However, we all thought this was true. So many outlets were coming out of this and we're thinking, we've got a new manager. But no, Mr. Steve Parish comes out publicly on Twitter and says basically that it's all untrue. He's never spoken with him. He's probably a nice guy, but you know, I don't like all this fake news being shared. And, you know, he came out and he done exactly that, so...
Accusations! These are not accusations. This is false accusations. And
I guess up Parish, but where is that manager? But Adi Hutter is still linked with us, and I'll take you through his playing style and what I think he will do as a Crystal Palace manager. Hutter likes to play a 3-4-1-2 formation with very high overlapping fullbacks. He has a philosophy of how he plays. It relies purely on intensity, high pressing, possession and verticality. This style of play means he likes to play through the lines with one-touch passing, either long passing, short passing, with high wing backs to allow overload in the forward areas. Also liking to switch into a more 5 at the back formation when defending, to allow the fact that even though one fullback may go up, you can still switch into a back four and have a very solid defence. He likes to overload the inside places. He likes to have the winger pick up a half space in between the centre-back and the full-back, so that the winger will be inside and the full-back will bomb on overlap, then make an overload in the opposition half. One-touch passing is obviously key in the style of play, and Hutter also likes to press with all his players apart from the centre-backs. The centre-backs do like to play a high line, and sometimes he likes to deploy an offside trap. Very interesting style of play, very different to what we currently play. It will need a lot of work, but, you know, it can work. With the right amount of backing, there's no telling what we can do with this team. We've got some good players. I think overall, Hutter would be a nice little appointment for Crystal Palace, but I think it would need a little bit too much time and money to start to implement his proper playing style, and he's very reluctant to change his style. He likes to buy players that will fit his style, and really we don't have that many players that will do what he wants. I think that because of how he plays, doesn't really like to play wingers, more likes to play attacking midfielders, and in my opinion it'll feel like players like Elise and Ayew will have to miss out, and purely for that reason I think that this probably isn't the best person to go with, because Elise is probably one of our biggest talents right now. He can maybe try and switch Elise into a more of an attacking midfielder instead of a right winger. Vieira's tried it, but we saw how that worked out. Also, you'll need to get 2 attacking fullbacks. It's going to cost a lot of money. You're going to need someone like Sasha Bowie and a left back like Attal, but that's someone who's probably not even on our radar or even in our league to get. But that's not the point. We need a lot of money to start to play his way, and it will be a very much kind of trust the process kind of manager, and it can only work with the right investment. However, I'm not completely opposed to it. I'd like to see how it would work out. We'd need a few players, but, you know, let's see what happens. On to the next one. If I made this video about a week, maybe 2 weeks earlier, I'd be talking loads about Arne Slot and how he's a great manager. How he won the Dutch League by 7 points, how he plays really expansive football, and how his playing style and how his formation would really benefit Crystal Palace, because we play very similarly in a 4-3-3 formation. But he is that kind of European level manager, that sort of Unai Emery that Villa got. But I'd say it's probably a little bit of a step too far for Crystal Palace, and we saw that because the front runner was Spurs, and Unfortunately, I don't think if we could compete with Spurs, there's no question he's going to go to Spurs over us. However, he's come out and said that he's staying at Feyenoord, so that chapter opened and closed extremely quickly. Would have been nice to see, but unfortunately, there's nothing else for me to say about Arne Slot other than it was a good dream. Hopefully, maybe in a few years when he does decide to leave Feyenoord. But, on to the next one. The former Swans, Brighton and Chelsea manager, Graham Potter, looks like a very likely candidate for Crystal Palace, and that is only providing that Roy Hodgson does not sign a one-year extension. Very impressive CV, taking a relegation-threatened Brighton team from Chris Hughton to then develop the players, sell on a few players, buy a few players, to create the perfect springboard for De Zerbi to just take them straight into Europe in his first season. Very unique playing style, being able to take very average players, turn them into world beaters and sell them on for a profit. I'm not going to look at his Chelsea time at all because I feel like none of that is his fault and I feel like he had no control over it, but I still think this would be a really good appointment. Like I said before, Potter is a very flexible manager and he likes playing many different formations. Some formations that he has used previously is a 4-4-2, a 3-4-3 and a 3-5-2 formation. It's the kind of flexibility that I think will benefit our players because we've got many different players that work in different formations, such as with the 3-4-3, we may not have that third centre-back, but we've definitely got the wingers that we need, we've got the midfielders that we need, so he'll definitely be able to look at the players and play the best formation which will suit the most of our players. Also, like I said before, he will start to implement the Moneyball method because he is what started the Brighton and Brentford sort of surge that they've been doing of buying in players for very cheap and selling them for very much money. It's because he's very involved in the scouting of the players and where he wants players and how to be very specific with the players that he wants, like certain stats, certain attributes that the players have. Potter likes to find very wide players as well. He likes to play in the wide spaces, like I said with Hutter, like having the winger in the half space in between the centre back and the full back with a overlapping full back or a midfielder coming around the outside. He's got many different ways of playing on the pitch. Very offensive, very defensive as well. Loves one or two touch passing and is very effective. Like certain clips that you can see of Brighton playing is very, very good to watch. The speed in which they move the ball, how they retain the ball is very impressive. And he looks like he would benefit of more ball carriers, and with the players like Elise, Eze, Decore to a certain extent, Schlapp, we've got these kind of players in here already, so really he might only need one or two really good players and fullbacks, but fullbacks have been Palace's issue for so long that we can't even address it anymore. But with a few players and for a long period of time, if we trust him and we don't turn on him, then I think this will be a really good opportunity for us to thrive and maybe have a similar springboard to what Brighton have done to take them to Europe. Overall, I think that this appointment of Graham Potter to Crystal Palace would be good and it'll be a good one to adapt to. This is because the formations and the players that he'll be able to choose what is best very quickly. However, the issue is that he is ex-Brighton and we know how it is with ex-managers of a rival team becoming the manager. We saw it with Rafa Benitez. The second stuff started going wrong, the fans turned on him, it was very fast and they got him out. The thing is with Potter, I can see him taking Crystal Palace to the next stage, even though it may hurt us that he is he is an ex-Brighton manager, but I think it's something we're just going to have to deal with. I think he's probably one of the best options that we have out there. I would like to see him come in. I think it's the best of a bad bunch. But with Potter, I think we need to back him. We can't turn our backs on him. Even if stuff starts going wrong, we have to back him. I think it's a very good appointment for Crystal Palace if we can get it done. Because it looks like he doesn't really want a job right now, but we might have to do a lot of convincing. Paulo Fonseca is the current Lille manager and finishing the fourth position by taking advantage of their forward players such as Jonathan David to be able to go toe-to-toe with French giants of the league such as PSG. Before he was the Lille manager, he was manager of Roma and maintained European status on a pretty small budget. The Portuguese manager only has 1 year left on his deal at Lille, and the formation is exactly the same as what we play at Crystal Palace. 4-3-3 is his go-to. Unfortunately, he's also linked with West Ham. However, I feel like if they win the Conference League final, the video might be out either before or after that game. But if they win it, I don't see any reason why they would sack David Moyes. However, if they don't win it, probably he'll rather go there, you know, bigger budget, probably bigger stadium, slightly better players man for man. But, you know, you never know. Unai Emery went to Villa, I said that earlier, but, you know, why couldn't Fonseca come to Crystal Palace? I'll tell you why I think it would work now. Fonseca likes to play his 4-2-3-1 formation, which he has played at every club he's managed at. This is because with this formation, you can get the defensive rigidity that you need to keep the clean sheets. However, also playing with attacking fullbacks. This means that if the fullback will go up, the defensive midfielder will fill in the space that the fullback has left, and also the other DM will move over to pick up a more central role so you can cover more space. It's also very good because it allows you to score goals. It means that you will always have 5 defenders and 5 attackers at all times. So you are able to create overloads up front, but not leave yourself vulnerable in behind for counter-attacks. The playing style is very focused on dominating the ball, holding the ball, playing very safe passes, but then when you want to start to assert yourself and start passing vertically, it's all one-touch football. Moving the ball very fast along the floor and sometimes in the air with some crosses as well, some long balls. And also, he likes to use very fast wingers and skillful wingers. We've got that in Elise. We've got the 10, which he craves, that has a good passing in Eze. And Eze also has the other attribute of driving with the ball. At all his clubs, he hasn't had a 10 that can drive with the ball as well as Eze can do. But Eze also has that passing in his locker, so he has both attributes which he will need. Fullbacks are high at all times with this. Most of the time he's playing a 2 at the back, maybe even a 3 at the back formation, depending on what side of the pitch the football is at. And it's a very interesting way to watch football, and it's very enjoyable to watch as well because there's just so much tactically going on, and he normally likes to play with very technical players. So not very physical, not sure how it would translate to the Premier League. However, with the right players, I'm sure that this actual formation, his playing style would do really well in the Premier League. And also it's pretty well suited to Crystal Palace because of the player profile that we go for and the player profiles that we actually have in the club already. In my opinion, Fonseca is probably the top of my list, probably the best option out there for Crystal Palace. However, this is very, very dependent on the board backing him. As I said, if West Ham win that final and they do decide to sack David Moyes, I'm sure he'd go there. You know, European football, big budget, and, you know, probably be better off for him. However, if we can somehow get this over the line, we need to give him money, to give him fullbacks. He needs a striker, and if we don't keep Zaha, we need to get a left winger with the same kind of qualities and the kind of attributes that he wants in a player. If we can keep Gay, Elise and Zaha, all we need to do is improve, and really I can see this guy taking us up the Premier League table. He's that good of a manager that I'd back him. But yeah, you guys tell me what you guys think in the comments below. Steve Cooper is currently the Nottingham Forest manager and has been linked with Crystal Palace. Apparently he's reportedly to have done 2 interviews at Crystal Palace already to become the Eagles manager. After securing Forest safety in the Premier League, they did the lap of appreciation. Every club does it. However, he had an interaction with their owner, and it was a bit frosty. It was a little bit awkward, seemed a bit odd to me. But, before becoming the Forest manager, when he was a Swansea manager, and then I believe he was the England under 16 and 17 manager, which means he's previously worked with Mark Gay, he's previously worked with Eze, and he's very comfortable of knowing the strengths and the weaknesses of these players. So I'm sure he'll be able to play someone like Eze in the right position, similar to what Roy Hodgson has done to get the best out of him. And also we have some links to some very interesting talent, maybe some other players that we could scout that we would never thought we'd have an option to sign before. It just broadens our horizons ever so slightly to the people that we are linked with, because that sort of crop of players that he has managed in the England setup have been very pivotal coming through the ranks, like Foden, less an extent of like Ryan Brewster, Smith Rowe, Curtis Jones, people like that. So, you know, we could get some... There are definitely some positives to this signing, or this appointment. Steve Cooper does like to play a very defensive style of football. However, with that defensive style of football, once he wins the ball, it is very free-flowing and attacking, possession-based football. He does like to play a 3-4-1-2 formation. However, this does mean when defending, he does like to play 5 at the back. The wing-backs like to drop in, tuck in, and make it nearly impossible for other teams to score. This shows with his with his home record at Forest this season. Very good defensively and offensively as well. Very hard to break down team, and he does rely on moving up the pitch with overlapping wing backs, which is just a common occurrence at Crystal Palace, because I'm sorry, but I've been saying this for years. We need a left back and a right back, and probably 2 right backs, because both our right backs are over the wrong side of 33 years old at the end of this season. However, he does like to use ball carriers as well, which such as Eze, Elise, Edouard to a certain extent, and he likes to make threats up front. He likes technical players to make darting runs, to make different runs, to carry the ball, to move into half spaces, and for the person with the ball to actually make something, to beat a man. He expects that from you, to play a 1-2 to beat a man. I think that's where he likes to play. He likes to overlap. He likes to make lots of defenders not sure exactly on where you're going to go because of how free-flowing and attacking it is. I'm not saying it's like total football when going forwards, but you will see the right wing-back maybe going through the middle and a striker going down the right. Like, you can see variations, which is very hard to keep track of. It's a very enjoyable way of watching football, but that's only against teams that you will dominate the ball. If we dominate the ball, Cooper is a very interesting and exciting manager to watch. However, if we are not dominating the ball, which we seem to not do very well against anyone in this Premier League, it's going to be a very long day of just sitting back, 5-man behind the ball, very compact, not allowing them to pass through the lines. It's going to be a long day, a long time watching football. You know what? When comparing it to the other people, I wouldn't actually mind seeing Cooper at Palace. Obviously, we wanted him before, and the other managers on the table are either unemployed or looking for a new job, but Cooper seems to be really happy at Forest. I don't seem to believe that he has been interviewed twice for Palace, and if it was the case, it was when we were still looking for a manager before we got Vieira. I think that we have players that will benefit from his style and with his relationship with the England youth talents and all of that stuff. I think it'll be really good to see it happen, but I don't think he'll leave Forest. I think that he's bought into the fans, he's bought into the playing style, and he's got the players that he needs over there. If he comes here, he'll have to start off again, need full-backs. But then again, he could get someone in like Jed Spence because he has worked with him previously. But, overall, he needs a lot of time, a lot of players, a lot of investment to get through it. But, I'm not completely opposed to it. If it happens, could be good for us. Don't see why not. On to the last one, I believe. Finally, we're at Brendan Rodgers, a very, very, very well-decorated manager in the Scottish League, winning many, many trophies for Celtic. More impressively, a Super Cup and a FA Cup for Leicester City before getting sacked in April. Rodgers is a serial winner, and he's a manager that gets a lot of success for wherever he goes. However, he does need a larger budget, and the first season that Leicester get relegated is the season that he hasn't had much to spend, and they have FFP issues with the squad. And with Crystal Palace, we are never blessed with a very big transfer budget, so let's see how Rodgers would work out. Unfortunately, when talking about Brendan Rodgers and talking about him tactically, he is probably the worst out of everyone I've spoken about in this video when it comes to how he plays the game tactically and how he invents the wheel. But he doesn't really invent the wheel. What he does is he does like to see what is working well this season. So, for example, this season, how Pep Guardiola is playing the inverted fullbacks. He's tried to implement that into Leicester, but he has not got the players, not got the transfer budget to get the players that he wants to play this style of football, and that's probably why they didn't do so well this season. Worked well the few seasons before because he bought Pereira, Justin, and played Albrighton as a attacking wing back or fullback, and we saw lots of success there. However, if you take all of the following current trends out of it, he does like to play a 4-2-3-1, which is very similar to how Fonseca plays, with the attacking fullbacks there, because he really likes that ever since he saw how it was being done in the Premier League and replicated it in Scotland and seemed to do very well. As we can see, Castagna, Pereira, Justin, all players that he needed to win that FA Cup final, and players that he'll need to improve on and buy for Crystal Palace, as we don't have these fullbacks to that level. He does like to play a very well decorated 10, and we have got Eze in that position, which will be really good, but he does like very pacey players. However, we don't really have the pacey players that we need. Elise is fast, but he's not that fast. Edouard's not that fast. Zaha's losing his pace, but it doesn't seem like he's going to be signing anytime soon. But with Brendan Rodgers, you've got the clout. You've got the clout of working at Liverpool, winning trophies at Celtic, winning trophies at Leicester, and he's going to be able to convince many players, which we think are maybe out of our remit to sign, to actually come and sign for Crystal Palace. And also linking him back up with Edouard again. Edouard was a serial goal scorer under Brendan Rodgers, and could he turn him back into that? Honestly, I think he's probably one of them managers that are slightly out of our reach, but just for Edouard's sake, if we can get Edouard scoring at how he's scoring at Celtic, we'll have a real good striker on our hands. We might not actually need to burn through so much of our transfer budget on a new striker for next season. Honestly, even though he is not tactically the best manager in the world, I'd think it would be a great fit for Crystal Palace because of the style of play and the clout that he brings. It'll sort of be like Vieira, how we can get some players that we never thought we'd have a chance with. Like Chet Decore, without Vieira, we're not signing that guy, and he's been our player of the season. And if we can get more players like him, who knows where we will be in a few seasons or a few months. But unfortunately, I do think that Brendan Rodgers is probably a manager a little bit too big for Crystal Palace right now. Maybe in a few years, if we get up the table, we can be looking at a Brendan Rodgers. But with the Celtic manager going over to Spurs, it wouldn't surprise me if, because Brendan Rodgers doesn't have a job right now, he might go back to Celtic and start winning more trophies again, because, you know, as a manager, as a player, who wouldn't want to win trophies? But yeah, that's all the managers. Let's get to the outro. And yes, guys, that's it. Thank you so much for watching. Transfer Weekly is officially back. Obviously, this episode was probably a bit longer. It's about managers, not players, but players will be back. I know about Lerma. That's in the next episode, 100%. Please remember to put in the comments who you want me to cover. And also put in the comments what manager you think is the best out of these people. Personally, I think it's Fonseca, and Potter being a close second. But yeah, remember, always put your comments of who you want me to cover in next and upcoming episodes in the comments below. Like, share, subscribe. We are back with Transfer Weekly, so don't you guys worry. This is JC from Eagle Eye Football. Thank you very much for watching, and I'll see you next week. Up the Palace. Eagles!